Welcome to Spoken Injustice, where we put the criminal justice system in the dock. Today's video is part of our news session and focuses on the post office scandal and particularly on two pieces of news. One in relation to the issue of compensation and one in relation to a legacy project recently announced by Sir Williams, designed to ensure that the effects of the Horizon failings cannot be forgotten. So follow us until the end to find out more. On 17th of July 2023, Sir Williams, chair of the Post Office Horizon IT inquiry, laid before Parliament an interim report under Section 24(3) of the Inquiry Act 2005, in which he called for action and legislative change to resolve issues blocking full and fair compensation being delivered to sub-postmasters affected by the Horizon scandal. This action was as a direct result of the human impact testimony he heard from former postmasters and others around the UK about the suffering and financial loss that they endured. He said, "Such evidence left me in no doubt that there was a compelling need to provide compensation to all those who had suffered loss and damage which properly reflected their pecuniary and non-pecuniary losses. My current strongly held view is that the scheme administrators will be unable to deliver compensation payments to all applicants to GLOS by the 7th of August 2024, which is the current deadline. He therefore called on the government to legislate so as to allow group litigation order compensation scheme payments to be made to applicants after 12 midnight on the 7th of August 2024, if that proves to be necessary." In his announcement published on the Post Office Horizon IT Inquiry YouTube channel, he described the compensation scheme, which includes 3 separate schemes, as a patchwork quilt with some holes in it.
What has emerged is a patchwork quilt of compensation schemes. And, unfortunately, it is a patchwork quilt with some holes in it. I am sure that if the government and the post office were setting out now to devise a scheme to deliver compensation to all those who have suffered losses, there would not be 3 different schemes, but rather one comprehensive scheme which would be capable of delivering appropriate compensation for all applicants.
He said the schemes are now at such an advanced stage that contemplating abandoning them is not feasible. However, he felt it was appropriate to make the following recommendations. Let's see.
However, I have reached the conclusion that it is now appropriate for me to make recommendations to the Minister which have the specific aim of ensuring that the applicants to each scheme are treated fairly and consistently across all schemes, that proper time is allowed for compensation payments under the group litigation order scheme to be assessed and paid out, and for the recently constituted Horizon Compensation Advisory Board to be used to maximum effect. I am firmly of the view that such recommendations should be made in an interim report laid before Parliament pursuant to the relevant section of the Inquiries Act 2005. I have therefore delivered such a report to Minister Hollingreich this morning.
The recommendations, 8 in total, can be found in the full report at page 32 to 34, which you can find linked in the description below. We are now going to look as to whether there has been any reactions to this report on the part of the government. However, before doing so, please like this video if you find it interesting, and consider subscribing to allow us to continue bringing to you the latest news into the debate on wrongful convictions. It is presumably Sir William's interim report that prompted the announcement made by the UK government in a press release of the 18th of September 2023 that every postmaster who was wrongfully convicted and has had their conviction overturned as it was reliant on Horizon evidence will be offered £600,000 in compensation. All reasonable legal fees will continue to be covered, and any postmaster who does not want to accept this offer can, of course, continue with the existing process. For those postmasters who have already received initial compensation payments or have reached a settlement with the Post Office of less than 600,000, they will be paid the difference. Kevin Hollingreich, who was appointed Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State at the Department for Business and Trade on the 7th of February 2023, said this is about righting a wrong and providing some form of relief to those wrongfully caught up in this scandal. However, what sum of money could ever be said to be capable of fairly compensating for the horror that several hundreds of postmasters were put through, including loss of liberty, loss of reputation, loss of jobs, divorce, irreversible mental and physical conditions, and even suicides? Not to mention the fact that many have lost their properties and been made bankrupt to pay for imaginary shortfalls caused by a faulty IT system, and who were prosecuted nonetheless. The Guardian, in an article dated 18th of July 2023, reported distraught sub-postmasters were imprisoned pregnant, or still in their teens, or on their young child's birthday, or in their old age, or in high-security jails where they saw and suffered terrible things. At least 60 have died without seeing justice or compensation. At least 4 took their own lives. Countless victims were driven into physical and mental problems from which they have never recovered. Vast sums were effectively looted from them to make up accounting shortfalls before they were prosecuted anyway. Harjinder Bhutoi, who was sentenced to 3 years and 3 months for false accounting in 2007, ended up filing for bankruptcy as he struggled to pay back a £60,000 confiscation order made against him. He had to wait for 14 years for his innocence to be recognised. According to the Irish Legal News, in response to the government announcement about the £600,000 compensation, he said, they, the Post Office and government, know that the compensation is going to be a lot more than £600,000 and are just trying to do it quick and easy. I wouldn't mind having this all behind me, but I'm not going to let them get away with it so easy, because I know what I'm owed is a lot more. When the issue was debated in the House of Commons main chamber on the 18th of September 2023, Sarah Jones, currently serving as Shadow Minister of Industry and Decarbonisation as part of the Labour's Shadow Department for Business and Trade team, said, I have spoken to one MP today who has a case in which various accumulated costs amounted to millions of pounds. What can the government say in response to the question that if people go through the full scheme, the compensation will be much higher? To which Holinrake responded, on the level of compensation, this will not take away from the original route. People can still go down the full assessment route. If somebody thinks they have a claim worth millions of pounds, they may well decide to go down the full route. In the meantime, on the 27th of September 2023, Andrew Gilbertson, Ian Davis, Trace Gooding, Amer Sen, and a fifth former Post Office employee who wishes to remain anonymous had their convictions quashed at Sadok Crown Court. All five had pleaded guilty in Magistrates' Court and so were previously unable to appeal their convictions. According to ComputerWeekly.com news feed, this brings the total number of quashed convictions based on evidence from the Post Office's Horizon system up to 91. Meantime, on the 25th of September 2023, the Post Office Horizon IT Inquiries Secretariat announced that it will develop a legacy project that helps to ensure the effects of the Horizon scandal cannot be forgotten. Sir William said, I have spoken before of the lasting impression I was left with after hearing and reading evidence about suffering and hardship that so many have endured. I want to ensure that these effects of the Horizon failings cannot be forgotten, which is why I've asked my team to begin work on the legacy project. Postmasters, branch managers, assistants, family members and others who have been affected by the Post Office Horizon scandal have been invited to attend an engagement session led by the Inquiries Secretariat to be held on the 25th of October 2023. It will be an opportunity for people to share their views and experiences with others, as well as to hear an update from the Inquiries Secretariat on upcoming activity. During this session, the Inquiries Secretariat will share plans to develop a legacy project that helps to ensure the effects of the Horizon scandal cannot be forgotten. The inquiry wants to ensure that people affected by the Horizon scandal are central to the development of the legacy project, and so initial plans will be shared with those attending the engagement session. Hearing from those affected will inform work on the legacy project. It is hoped the project will culminate in creative, cultural, or educational initiatives that raise awareness of the inquiry's findings and the impacts the scandal has had on people. Further details will be published once the engagement sessions and further scoping work have taken place. This concludes our news session. I hope you found this video useful, and if so, please like and subscribe so that we continue bringing to you the latest news affecting the often ignored issue of wrongful convictions. Also, join our networking hub at spokeninjustice.net to have your say as to the future content of this channel. Join me next week. We look forward to usher you as we sit and rise in this unique trial.